Alright, so normally I would start this by, like, thanking patrons and stuff, but I'll do the credits at the end, and y'all know who you are. This is very off-the-cuff, very guerrilla radio right now, okay, guys? This audio, video, whatever you want to call it, is so low-spec and so off-the-cuff that if I had a webcam that was, like, decent, and I knew was good, like, this would literally just be, like, me in the chair talking. So this is where we're talking. In case you can't tell by the video and the title and the thumbnail and stuff, so I have just finished reading Poison River, the first Daidoji Shin mystery by Josh Reynolds. Okay. Produced by Aconite Books in association with Fantasy Flight Games and Asmodee, who owns them, for Legend of the Five Rings. It's Legend of the Five Rings novel. It's actually the second full-length novel. I haven't gotten the crab one. I probably won't. No offense to Dave Annandale or anything, but crab themes are not my themes. I've said that before. And, I mean, some people have said it kind of reads like a generic fantasy book with somebody Control F and everything. Which, fair enough. I mean, I haven't read it myself. I don't know. To me, anyway, Poison River does not read that way. I'll admit, Poison River reads like, for research, the hand of the author, Josh Reynolds, like a copy of Emerald Empire, and was like, hey, here you go, pick a city. And they, like, found City of the Rich Frog, and, like, yeah, it name drops all the big characters who are name dropped in the section in Emerald Empire, the RPG book, and all that stuff. And, just go with it. But, guys, spoilers, that's how I write my games for L5R. Like, that's how I'm working on my campaign, is I'm digging through source books and old wikis and shit like that. So, actually, it feels very organic, because the conflict of this novel, which is a mystery novel, is very fundamental to the L5R setting. Like, it is deeply linked into the history of the City of the Rich Frog and the factions in it and all that stuff, and all the major characters who appear in Emerald Empire. And it's kind of timeline agnostic. Like, it mentions all characters who are supposed to be as of the right now, but also the RPG doesn't necessarily take into account the ongoing metaplot shit anyway, so it's a little timeless. But yeah, no, like, it's really good, guys. I can't stress enough how much, like, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100. And at the end, it ends... Also, by the way, in case you're curious, I got it right here. I got it in paperback. What's the final page count? It's in the proper novel level. They do advertise... The first thing they advertise is the L5R RPG by Edge, in cooperation with Fantasy Flight Games. But on the last page, page 361, it says, Daidoji Shin will return in Death's Kiss. I'm there. Like... I'm pretty hyped for the next novel to come out by Mary Brennan, because it looks like it's going to be like a Dragon and Phoenix novel and deal with more weird shit. I'm super excited. I will buy another one of these. I'll buy another 50 of these. I don't know. I admit I have a weakness. I'm thumping my Bible right here. I have a weakness for pulp detective fiction. I admit it. I love mysteries. I grew up on mysteries, all kinds of mystery fictions and series. The kind that the author, writes 10 billion, they can, make one a year, whatever. But this is a good example of a genre, and I've seen so far, not a lot of reviews on, like, Amazon and stuff, but so far what I've seen, people have generally enjoyed it. It's really good. Like I said, the plot is, like, integrally linked into Rokugan's world, alright? It takes place in the City of the Rich Frog. There's a shipment of rice purchased by the lion that is poisoned, and they suspect the unicorn are involved. So, like, there's a whole pretense of war, because it's got 3 different factions in it. The dragon and the dragonfly are inscrutable. The whole thing. But yeah, overall, like, just the narrative and the through point, like, it's interesting. Maybe I should talk about Daidoji Shin himself. Love him, by the way. Great character. Good design for a PC. Daidoji Shin is a Daidoji. He says he's trained as a courtier, but does know how to handle a blade, because, he is a Daidoji. He does talk about how, they're drilled into, like, being stern, but he's more of the trading council type. He's supposed to be the trading council's representative in the city, look out for merchants and stuff. They don't have a big controlling interest, but they're the crane. They got a guy. That's how they work. He has a bodyguard, a Yojimbo, and she is actually referred to, by the way, interestingly, it does, like, I'll say this, it bucks some of the trends that you see put more hardcore in the RPG and stuff, but I think in a good way. Where his Yojimbo is referred to as Hiramori Kasumi, because she is from a vassal family from the Uebe Marches. So she's, like, in the Daidoji's family tree vaguely, but is generally referred to, well, she's generally referred to by her given name, because she's Shin's bodyguard, so, there's that. But, like, she's described as being, Hinamori, which is interesting. Usually the RPG likes to go the other way, but if you're one of those people who likes a little more diversity in their names, there are a couple of merchant and Heyman, middle-class men, men and women who have surnames, for instance, as well. Though, some of those are, like, titles and stuff. There's Kabuki and stuff in there. Oh, my Audacity's freaking out. Sorry. So there's a lot of interesting trends and stuff. Hold on a sec. All right, I reset my recording really quick because Audacity was, like, lagging and freaking out. Anyway, there's a lot of interesting stuff. I kind of prefer the style of Josh Reynolds here. It doesn't really, like... I'm looking at a lot of the dialogue. There's a lot of, like, my lord and stuff. They don't throw in a lot of honorifics, which, like, there's subtext there that if you know what's up, you can... Like, there's a lot of subtlety in the Japanese language. I get that as a huge weeb who watched a lot of anime as a kid. But also, I know some people, and even myself sometimes, that feels a little forced in the fiction. Like, you don't have to bring it up, like, literally every time, and it makes for a smoother read. Like, this is a very smooth, pulpy read. You don't feel like you have to read a fucking textbook to understand what's going on here. They are samurai. Some of them are, bushi warriors. Shinobi are mentioned. They're referred to as shinobi, not ninja. There's some up and downs on how much. Daidoji Shin himself, I mentioned him earlier, he's a great character because he's that rich idiot with no day job, basically, kind of character. Like, he's all Bruce Wayne, no Batman. I wouldn't say he's full Sherlock, because, like, there's a little bit of that, but not fully. But he's a Daidoji with more money and time than being super stoic. He even admits he bucks the trend. He's that classic type of character you see a lot in L5R, where, yeah, he's a Daidoji, he's supposed to be all stern and honor and, like, stuff like that. And his bodyguard, even though she's from a vassal family, fits much more the Iron Crane stereotype. But, he's a more mercantile sort. He likes his wine, women, and song. They allude to all kinds of crazy escapades. He kidnapped a scorpion princess. He jumped out a window to escape an angry husband. Oh, the classic high fantasy frat boy type shit you'd expect from this thing. But he's not a doofus. He just, for some reason, he even admits he's not sure why, doesn't like to play things by the rules necessarily, doesn't like to follow people's expectations of him. He's just being him. And, like, he's in soft exile, but he doesn't mind because the city is cool and he gets to, like, chill out and go to Kabuki every night when he wants to and stuff like that. Go gambling down at the wharfs and, stuff like that too. He's not super keen on honor, but he knows how to play the Crane game pretty well. And, like, when it actually, push comes to shove, he's got his own, like, internal sense of honor. Like, he talks a lot about the difference between, like, truth and law and justice, etc. And kind of, he plays the game. They justify his knowledge as an investigator by saying that this guy has so much fucking time on his hands, he reads loads of books, including banned books, other little touches of things like that, literal plot hooks ripped right out of the RPG, but again, like I said, that's how I write my own material, so fuck, am I gonna be mad at this guy because he got published? Like, what is he gonna do? He's not, Josh Reynolds isn't making up the setting. But, like, he's read Agashi Kitsuki's methods, right? Like, he's read about it, and he's kind of like, okay, I understand the concepts of the facts, but also he kind of puts it that the pure Kitsuki method is more, what do you say? It's even more, like, purely fact and logic based. It doesn't always look for context, which I think is true of some investigators and the way they're portrayed. Like, they are about fact-based policing, basically, and looking for evidence and connecting them together, solid proof of things, and using those to logical conclusions. But, at least based on his interpretation of the text, Shin likes to take it a little bit further and get in there and be like, yeah, okay, so the facts say this, but why do they say this? How would they say this? Like, he gets a little more judgmental, and he likes to asks people a lot of questions, and gets a lot of testimony. And doesn't necessarily let just the facts lead him to a conclusion based on that, but he actually, like, asks people and tries to figure out why they did stuff, not just that they did stuff, how they did stuff, and when. So he's got his own little spin on it, which I think kind of blends some of the levels, and makes it very accessible to a modern mystery reader, obviously. And I would say, like, he's not treated as like a cool guy because of this. Like most people think he's weird, he's insolent, literally the word wastrel is used a lot. But I like him as a great character. Like he's got vices, but he's got vices in that, like I said, classic rich idiot with no day job thing. Like he meets normally in his position he meets merchants who are, patroned by the Daidoji like a couple times a week. He occasionally takes team meetings. It's great though. I rambled for 10 minutes about this. The book is great fundamentally. I don't want to spoil too much about the plot, but it's got all the classic twists and turns. It's got the multi-layered. It's got the classic mystery conspiracy where 2/3 of the way through you're like, okay, we solved it, but did we really solve it? And you got to go, Shin is the kind of guy who goes that extra mile to be like, I really want to solve it though, because this isn't about like just because somebody asked me to investigate. Because he gets asked by the Imperial Governor to investigate because he's an impartial. Yeah. The characters are all pretty great. I don't think anybody is like really obstreperous or out of character. Like I said, the book doesn't necessarily try to go whole hog on like the Japanese weebooisms, which is okay. Like I think it makes the story flow better without needing a fucking cheat sheet. But it's still in the world and the concepts and like deals with the stuff. Investigates poison elements, talks about different areas, has a pretty good grasp of all the politics involved. And I'm interested to read more of these, pulpy L5R mystery novels. They're pretty great. The book does feel a little bit pulpy. Like there are times when I'm like, I feel like there are pages where I feel like the print is like slightly off kilter, but it didn't really bother me. I have a weird bent page. It's got like one of those like slightly smooshed pages. So it was a cheap ass paperback, so whatever. But it's like I said, it's over 350 pages. It's a good length, got a great detail. Pretty spicy. I like it a lot. In case you can't tell, I'm eager for more. And so I read this thing and I was like, fuck, I gotta talk about it. I gotta like get my thoughts out there on a microphone. And here we are. Yeah, I don't really want to. This is very stream of consciousness. I should have said that at the start. Some people are gonna yell at me in the comments by now, being like, "Man, this is really unfocused." But hopefully I got that point across to you earlier when I talked about how this would literally just be me in front of a camera if it was like, if I had a good camera for this. You could see me like soliloquizing to this fucking book more. But yeah, I think that's everything I really wanted to say. I just want to talk about how it's good. I love like the bits I love about it, and just if you are going to play or run an L5R game, you should read this. This reads like an adventure. Like maybe just two people, like courtier Daidoji Shin and his beleaguered assistant Kasumi. There's some supporting characters and stuff, but they're really the main centerpiece. Maybe some other characters could be considered player character tier. If you're interested in the Cat Clan, there's a major character in here who is Nakoma. But it deals with a lot of that. It's interesting how religion and magic and stuff don't enter it. Like there are major Shugenja characters. A lot of the Tonbo, the Dragonfly Clan, are Shugenja, and they deal with spiritual stuff. But Shin is just like, I hear stories and stuff. They're weird. Shugenja are weird. They're tuned into the otherworldly. But it flows very well. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, because I know some people are. Sorry, I reset my recording again. I don't know why Audacity lags sometimes. It's not like dropping any audio. It just like doesn't catch up with itself. But anyway, if you're interested in that sort of thing, some of you who've read Emerald Empire will know that the Dragonfly representative, I can double check their name because there is a credits, for lack of a better term, in the back. Like it's not a dramatis personae at the front, but it's Tonbo Kuma is portrayed as basically gender neutral, like I guess non-binary, like they're androgynous. Only the pronoun they is ever applied to them. Nobody ever thinks this is weird or objects. They are the subject of a possible arranged marriage, for instance. So it just doesn't seem that weird to anybody, and they just kind of go with it. And nobody really comments on it. It's not like a weird thing that's happening. Also, again, a lot of those plot hooks torn straight from Emerald Empire, but again, I'm not upset about that. That's the source material, that was the primary sources for this story, and it's just yet another look at how you can take those plot hooks and turn them into an adventure, which is great. That's why I say I recommend it to players and GMs alike. If you're just a fan of the L5R setting, like I said, it doesn't necessarily go that extra mile to like make you feel super immersed. It goes, I think, for a more digestible approach, but honestly, some people will prefer that. I find no problem with it. So I talk about like that's similar to my writing style. Yes, I would probably, while running a game as game master, be like call out specific honorifics and stuff. because it's helpful to give players context, but it's not important to storytelling. Like, that's just an extra mile, and also I'm a huge weeb, and I know most of my players are huge nerds and dorks, so there's that. If you just like mysteries, it's a pretty decent one. Like, there's not any, like, super twists and turns, but there's a decent amount of ambiguity. Like, it's fast-paced enough, I wasn't necessarily trying to think steps ahead of Daidoji Shin, right? And, like, preemptively solve. I would just kind of follow the clues and being like, yeah, okay, yeah. And then when he runs into people who are responsible, you're like, yeah, I knew it was that guy, or yeah, it was that. So it's one of those interesting things. Like, and like as the reader, you know some of the pieces, some of the info that Shin doesn't for a long time. Like, Shin isn't the only viewpoint character, I should say. Even though he's a majority of the protagonist and he drives the plot forward. There's other characters whose viewpoints you get at different times. So like, it's okay. You can follow them on and kind of follow along, and like, maybe you figure it out, maybe you don't care. It's all right. Like I said, I read it in 2 sittings, just because I started in the middle of the night last night, but I was able to get it read in, I think, about 3 or 4 hours total, probably. So it's not a slow read, even though I know I'm a fast reader, but it's a good time. I heartily recommend it. Can't wait for the sequel. Very interested to see what Mary Brennan's going to do, but yeah, Josh Reynolds, if you'll keep turning these out year after year, I will keep buying them. They're great. It's pretty spicy. Okay. Spicy in a good way, by the way. Yeah, okay, I think that's all I got to say on that. If you're interested about, like a Celestial Realms review, I do have that PDF. It finally came out in PDF. Edge took over publishing of, like, everything online. Hopefully that means that the PDF for Fields of Victory? I think it's Victory. The Lion book. Hopefully that gets processed a little bit faster because, like, Edge is fully in control. I don't really want to throw... I definitely don't want to throw stones at Edge. It seemed like it was kind of a sudden transfer for them to be responsible for the digital marketplace. Like, everything formerly under FFG is now under Edge on drive-thru. And I don't necessarily want to throw stones at FFG either because, as noted earlier this year, literally everybody in the RPG department who was just in the RPG department was laid off, and they were also building up to laying off the minis department and the OP department, basically, or big chunks of the OP department, to move them to Atomic Mass Games, who is now handling all of their miniatures. So, like, Asmodee is, like, subdividing up everybody and slotting in every product line into specific companies designed for that specific type of product line. Like, heck, this is done under Aconite, which is now Asmodee's book imprint specifically. Like, it still has the FFG logo in it because FFG was the one who bought the rights, but it's a whole thing. So I don't want to throw any stones. If anybody's got stones to throw, it's on Asmodee about being so disorganized and unprepared with this transfer. Like, everything seems so sudden and unsure, you know? But it is how it is. I will, maybe next week? I don't know. Like, I've read bits and pieces of it, and I've skimmed the PDF. I need to take another deep dive pass. I'm working on the next couple of adventures for my Star Wars setting before I'm going to dive back into writing my L5R campaign again. This is great fuel for that. Like I said, it reads very adventure-like, very PC heavy. So it's definitely the kick in the pants I need to get back on that. So I will hopefully have some kind of Celestial Realms review out to you. But like I said, I did like I always do. I read a book. I love it. I skim through it. I ate it. And I just had to talk about it. So that's my thoughts. All right. I'm going to get out of here and edit this real quick and throw it up because I got to stream soon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, everybody. Yes, like I said, there will be more L5R content on here eventually. Ciao.